As China-Taiwan tensions simmer, WION goes on the ground.
Crisis between U.S. and China relations over the peaceful visit by the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Decoding the US-China face-off. From people to the politics, WION gets you all sides of the story from Taiwan.
275 PLA aircraft incurred across the median line in the Taiwan Strait.
New Delhi, Washington and Beijing.
In this very, very difficult time, this is Ting Liu reporting from Taipei, Taiwan.
Most comprehensive coverage of the big battle between superpowers.
You know what cards Taiwanese government can play at this moment right now? To be honest, there has been not much that we are seeing at this point in time. On top of increasing Taiwanese military capabilities, the other way or the other path that the Taiwanese government is currently actively pursuing is to call upon international attention to look at the Taiwan issue, to pay attention to the Taiwanese issue in this very, very difficult time.
China's military incursions into Taiwan's territory have become the new normal. Since U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit, China has continuously conducted live military drills around the island. Chinese jets regularly cross the median, the halfway mark between Taiwan and mainland China along the Taiwan Strait. This line, though not recognized by Beijing, has largely been respected over the past 6 decades. In the month before Pelosi's visit, China had just crossed the median once. China is also engaging in what Taiwan described as cognitive warfare, after a second U.S. congressional delegation visited Taiwan on August 14th. The People's Liberation Army released footage of Taiwan's Penghu Islands. The footage suggested that Chinese jets were at Taiwan's doorstep. The Taiwanese Air Force denied that the Chinese drills had come near Penghu. Besides military aircraft and warships, Taiwan is under threat from Chinese submarines. China has a state-of-the-art submarine fleet. It includes the latest type O-39C Yuan-class U-boat. This U-boat has been stationed with some older vessels roughly 500 kilometers south of Taiwan. In comparison, Taiwan just has 4 submarines. 2 of them are World War II-era vessels, the oldest operating submarines in the world. All 4 are from the mid-20th century and are not expected to stand a chance against China's modernized armada. While Taiwan has not reported any increased Chinese submarine activity, it has reported multiple drone incursions since early August. Drones of unknown origin have been reported over the Taiwan-controlled Kinmen Islands. The unmanned aerial vehicles could be another prong in China's Taiwan strategy. That's not all. Cyberspace is also one arena where the Chinese are threatening the Taiwanese. Even before Pelosi's visit, Chinese hackers were suspected of attacking Taiwan's government websites. The cyber attacks took place after the visit as well. The hackers used distributed denial-of-service attacks. According to Taiwan's foreign ministry, the attacks on its website and the government's portal were linked to Chinese and Russian IP addresses that tried to access the websites of up to 8.5 million times per minute. China is flexing both its regular and unorthodox warfare tactics against Taiwan. It's pushing the nation into a constant state of alert. Beijing's new normal is intimidating Taiwan into submission. The island, however, doesn't seem to be succumbing to Beijing's aggression.
So we are seeing that the PLA is putting a lot of military pressure on Taiwan. We need to understand it is not only a political stunt, but we are seeing that this is no doubt putting a lot of pressure on the Taiwanese Defense Ministry, because it means like there is less physical space to maneuver and react to any possible PLA aircraft or naval vessels incursions. And we need to understand that the median line has been there for more than many decades, and the median line has served as a buffer zone that maintains the peaceful status quo across the cross-strait relations. And on top of that, we are also seeing reports that the PLA might send stealth submarines to create a blockade around Taiwanese waters, and not forgetting sending drones over the airspace in the frontline islands in Taiwan. And this is actually creating not only what we call the military pressure, but also psychological pressure on the people of Taiwan.
China is continuing to rattle Taiwan, and Taiwanese are feeling the heat. There is anxiety and apprehension. On Saturday, 17 Chinese jets soared near Taiwan. Taipei says 6 Chinese ships were detected around Taiwan. Beijing continues to breathe fire near the island. This included 8 aircraft that crossed the Taiwan Strait's median line, which in normal times acts as an unofficial barrier between the two sides. This is happening every day now. Chinese warplanes enter the airspace near Taiwan. They simulate attacking the island. They conduct drills near Taiwan and they fire missiles. The People's Liberation Army has specific objectives for these drills. It wants to completely smash the so-called median line. The median line is the unofficial border between China and Taiwan. It separates Taiwan from China. Beijing wants to make this median line irrelevant, and Taipei is concerned.
Here is the median line in the Taiwan Strait. The median line of the strait is a tacit agreement between the two sides of the strait that has existed since the 1950s. Although this is of no effect under international law, the existence of this line is a fact. Every area of the no navigation zones announced by China in recent drills is to the east of the strait median line. This action has squeezed Taiwan's military drill space and affected the normal commercial operation of international flying routes.
The past 2 weeks have been extremely tumultuous for Taiwan. Enraged over US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit on the 2nd of August, China went ballistic. Look at this map. This is Taiwan. There are 6 danger zones around the islands. This is where the PLA is conducting drills. Missiles are flying from the mainland, and they are landing in every corner. A few missiles went over Taiwan. They landed in Japan's Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. This area falls in Japan's jurisdiction. Think of it as Japan's sovereign territory. Chinese missiles are landing there. Tokyo has released an assessment. It says at least 5 missiles have landed in Japan's EEZ. That's not all. The PLA is also demonstrating its ability to blockade Taiwan. It is trying to control the Bashi Channel. This is an important sea link. Some experts believe it is the only way to enter and exit the South China Sea. How does the blockade help China? It can cut off Taiwan's access to valuable imports. It can also stop military aid from coming in, and Beijing is not hiding its intent in any way.
We will firmly safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, resolutely contain the US efforts to use Taiwan to suppress China, and firmly smash the Taiwan authorities' illusion of gaining independence through the US. At the same time, China is also upholding international law and the basic norms of international relations, especially the most important principle of internal law stipulated in the UN Charter of Non-Interference in Internal Affairs.
The next few days will be critical. China has extended the drills indefinitely. This could force the US to respond, and that may not end well.
So we are seeing very close and friendly relations between the Japanese lawmakers, the Japanese government and Taiwan, especially over the past few years. And not only the Japanese delegation that Taiwanese is expecting to receive. So in September, the Lithuania representative office in Taipei is scheduled to be open. So there might also be a visiting delegation from Lithuania. And in October, there would be Canadian lawmakers also paying a trip to Taiwan. So with this rising international awareness, it's something that Taiwan has been fighting for and is obviously very happy to receive. And we are also expecting probably to see a strong reaction from the Chinese government, because based on the previous delegations that visited Taiwan, they actually received very strong backlash from the PRC, and also some of them might be sanctioned by the Chinese government.
Under intense pressure from China, Taiwan isn't backing down. It is readying itself for the worst, and it has taken a two-pronged approach, ramping up military drills and reaching out to friendly nations. And it's not just the US. But first, let's talk about the preparedness on the ground. Taiwan has initiated its own military drills in response to Chinese hostilities. Fighter jets, missiles, anti-aircraft systems, air and sea military drills. Taiwan has seen it all. Days and nights of heightened tensions, and China is relentless and continues its unprecedented drills across Taiwan. Since Wednesday, Taiwan is carrying out its own drills. The military drills have a clear aim: to thwart a Chinese invasion.
We strongly condemn Communist China's continuous military provocations around Taiwan's sea and air and undermining regional peace. We must say that maintaining the intensity of our combat readiness training is the responsibility of all the soldiers. So Communist China's military operations just provide us with the opportunity for combat readiness training.
Over the years, Taiwan has modernized its armory, and the drills gives a glimpse of the weaponry. Skybow 3 surface-to-air missile system, Oerlikon 35mm twin cannon anti-aircraft gun, and other weapons are showcased in the combat exercise. But the showstopper is Taiwan's most advanced fighter jet, the F-16V, a multi-role fighter aircraft. 6 F-16Vs took off for training missions, zoomed off into the night sky, demonstrating their combat skills to take on the adversary in the dead of night. While the drills continue, Taiwan is also on a diplomatic overture. It has been a month since US Speaker of House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi visited the island. Other nations too are showing their solidarity. And obviously the communist regime isn't amused. A group of US lawmakers visited the self-governed island. The two-day trip triggered a furious response from Beijing and further prompted it to extend the drills. That's not all. Japan is sending a delegation to Taiwan, and a Canadian Parliamentary Committee delegation is planning a visit to Taiwan in October. And Beijing is watching every move cautiously and continues to maintain a vigil all around Taiwan.
US Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns made a pretty interesting remark to CNN yesterday. He said that he does not believe that there should be a crisis between US and China relations over the peaceful visit by the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan. And he said that it was a manufactured crisis by the Beijing government and an overreaction. He also called upon China that it must show that it is not an agent of instability on Taiwan. But on the ground, we are actually seeing a pretty much different picture. So in between August 3rd, which is the day Nancy Pelosi departed Taiwan, stretching all the way until the 19th of August, during the mere 16 days, a total of 275 PLA aircraft incurred across the median line in the Taiwan Strait or into Taiwan's Southwest Air Identification Zone, or what we call the ADIZ, Air Defense Identification Zone. So we are seeing that the PLA is putting a lot of military pressure on Taiwan.
The immediate trigger for this Chinese hostilities against Taiwan is a visit of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She visited Taiwan on August 2nd. Beijing had warned her not to set foot on the island. They said it would amount to a grave provocation. When she visited, China began conducting military drills around the island. The drills continued for 4 days, even after Pelosi left. Even now, Chinese troops have increased their activities around Taiwan. Critics say Beijing is trying to establish a new normal, a situation where the constant incursions into Taiwanese territory tests the island's vigilance, keep them on the edge. Beijing has also not ruled out using force to bring Taipei under its wing. The big question is, will the military drills become an invasion, like in Ukraine? The US ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, spoke candidly about his recent diplomatic efforts in Beijing. He said that it was up to Beijing to convince the world that it would act peacefully in the future. Burns had been summoned by the Chinese Vice Foreign Minister on the night of August 2nd, at what he says was the exact moment Pelosi's plane landed in Taipei. He said he defended Pelosi's right to visit Taiwan during what he called a contentious meeting. Burns' Chinese counterpart King Gang took to Twitter and spoke about US-China relations. He said that the US-China phobia was affecting the levels of trust between the nations. He said the common interests and responsibilities of the two nations far outweighed their differences, and that the differences should not justify confrontation and hostilities. The ambassador said the world was big enough for both the United States and China.
Sino-U.S. relations hit an all-time low when China decided to dramatically reduce diplomatic relations with the United States following House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan as Chinese aircrafts continue to cross the median line of the Taiwan Strait with one incursion after the other. On Friday afternoon, however, the Chinese ambassador to the United States took to Twitter, raising concern about the level of mistrust between Washington and Beijing, blaming it on, quote, China phobia, and pondering how trust may be restored between the two sides. In another tweet, he writes about how shared responsibilities outweigh differences.
The ambassador also tweeted about the Taiwan crisis. He said that the crisis wasn't started by China. He said that if China wanted that, they would not have tried so hard to stop her visit. As the Taiwan crisis continues to unfold, the world waits to see Beijing's next move. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The most common question asked by the international public is what is the mood now in Taiwan? To be honest, everything seems as per normal. Today is the weekend. I'm standing in the streets of Taipei. People are going about their daily errands, going about their daily leisure activities. They interview a sense of fear or worry if you are standing on the ground. You know, if you ask people, they will say that they are probably watching this very closely, but not with excessive fear, because you need to understand that this threat coming from the People's Liberation Army of China has been going on for several decades. But amidst all this chaos, and we are still seeing the Taiwanese government going to continue to receive several foreign delegations.
US and China are two superpowers wrangling with each other, and Taiwan is a new flashpoint. But as tensions rise, what is the mood on the ground? Do the views of Taiwanese people matter? A recent poll which surveyed over 1,000 adults in the island gives a sense of the sentiments in these tense times. 78% of those interviewed say they are not afraid of the large-scale military drills launched by China, while 17.2% say they are. This despite the fact that the drills were conducted in 6 zones that were in many cases closer than ever. And the Chinese ballistic missiles flew over Taiwan for the first time. But the signs are worrying.
这个局势真歹讲啦，毋是要吓人惊，也是要情况怎样，这是军事的无法度了解。最好是两方面讲的解决，安就好，和平就好啦。哦，送中国人来战争是较无适合啦，中国怕中国。
The tiny Kinmen Islands of Taiwan, which once served as a natural barrier to invasion, is now easily available to Beijing to bypass them with its superior armory of missiles, jets, and naval ships. Despite the bitter memories of conflict and current tensions, many Kinmen residents hold friendly views of China after years of close trade and travel links across the short stretch of sea. 47.5% of those polled believe that the United States will not send troops to defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion. 44.1% think that the US will in fact send troops.
比较紧张的氛围，可能也就是在国军内部。对于基本的民众来说，我们也是就是正常的上班、正常作息，可能在看新闻会稍微感到不安，但基本上就是跟平常一样，对。
When asked if war with China is imminent in the future, 39% say war is very or somewhat likely, while 52.7% say that it is not very likely or totally unlikely. The elders of the Kinmen Islands suggest that if Beijing did bring arms to bear, they would rather accept peaceful reunification than conflict.
As China-Taiwan tensions simmer, WION goes on the ground.
Crisis between US and China relations over the peaceful visit by the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Decoding the US-China face-off. From people to the politics, WION gets you all sides of the story from Taiwan.
275 PLA aircraft incurred across the median line in the Taiwan Strait.
New Delhi, Washington, and Beijing.
In this very, very difficult time, this is Ting Liu reporting from Taipei, Taiwan.
Most comprehensive coverage of the big battle between superpowers.